Hey there, it's Steven again here on the YouTube channel with another special guest that I met recently at the Home Healthcare Conference of Utah Association, or saying that all mixed up. But she had a booth behind me, and we got to chatting in between some sessions and in between people visiting our vendor booth. So if you'll go ahead, tell us who you are and what your business is, and we'll get this started.
Yeah, my name is Jaycie Voorhees. I am the director of Harmony Music Therapy. We provide music therapy services primarily in Salt Lake County, but also in surrounding counties. And we work with older adults and provide groups and individual services in end of life care and in memory care and so forth.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so I mean, I think some people probably know this, but my degrees are in music, and it's kind of interesting to see music therapy has grown a lot since I was an undergraduate. Gosh, almost, I mean, pushing on 20 years ago,
Mhm.
that it was a kind of a baby industry or area of music, and now it's really grown. Tell me a little bit about your story, how you started off with your business in Utah and kind of where you're at and where you're headed.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It was about 20 years ago for me too that I was going through the program and back then it was kind of like, well, if you want a job, you probably need to start a business, because most people would hear it and not really understand. I mean, you hear something like physical therapy, they're going to work on your body, or speech therapy is going to work on your speech. Music therapy, they're like, well, are you helping me learn music? But so it's very misunderstood, but the more people are seeing it, the more they're like, oh, that makes total sense. When I was growing up, I was a musician, always playing, and I love music, but I didn't want to perform. I wanted to use music to connect with people and to help people find peace and improve their lives. So I went into this field and I've been practicing for 17 years and I've had this practice for 15 years. And I love the work so much. I see music make such a difference in the lives of our patients. And I'm a huge advocate for the fact that all people are musical. And whether you're trained on an instrument or not is another story, but music is for everybody. And so bringing that to all of our patients, getting it into their hands to be able to create, to express themselves is really powerful, especially considering an end of life. Music is the last thing to go. If you start to remember the things that happened in your youth, sometimes because music brings back those memories. And so that's a big piece of what we do, is to help our clients to access those memories, to celebrate them, to enjoy creating music, singing again in ways that they may not have done for a long time.
What does music therapy really look like? What does it look like for people?
So in a one-on-one setting, we will often bring in a lot of instruments that are easily played, things like shakers or xylophones, things that anybody could play a note on there and it's not the wrong note. You don't have to worry about whether you've been trained on it or not. So we like to make music immediately accessible. Sometimes someone just wants to kind of be sung to for a little bit. And so we might start with playing for our patients. Music therapists will most often have a guitar or a keyboard with them, and first in understanding and learning about the patient's preferred music and learning that music or being able to play it on the spot so that they start to get engaged, and hearing songs that they know really starts to enliven the patient and they're more engaged and wanting to participate. So once they begin to be more engaged in participating, then we might say, would you like to play along a little bit or like create something here? And might give them some instruments and invite them to play along and create. And then there might be some elements of relaxation as well, but it's very much we just watch and see, where is our patient going? Are they getting tired? Are they starting to liven up a little bit and want to engage more? Let's create this musical interaction here. And then in groups, we often engage movement to music, singing, instrument play, relaxation, all within a group setting. So a music therapist would likely have a guitar, interacting with each participant individually, getting them to play and to create. A neurologic music therapist might look at the physical needs of the individuals, if they have anybody with muscle weakness or something like that, setting up instruments so they can start to exercise those muscles in really fun and engaging ways through like reaching out to play the drum and reaching back to play this other drum and doing these really fun interactive things with instruments and music. So um yeah, it's very interactive as opposed to just someone up front like playing the piano for them. It's let's create music together and let's reminisce. We just played Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Did you ever go to baseball games? Who did you go with? And then we build on that and help support that reminiscence.
Do you feel that a lot of your music therapy is more geared towards building cognitive skills?
That's a big part. Yeah. The domains that we focus on. So cognition is definitely a big one, especially with the end of life care and elder care. And then we also incorporate socialization and motor development, as well as emotional support, spiritual support. And then in some cases, language. If someone has had a stroke or aphasia, we can help with rehabilitating some of that language as well. So there's music accesses the whole brain, all of these different functions. And so we're able to tap into that to really support almost any area that that patient might need help with.
So are you going into people's homes, or are you only going into, like, assisted living and memory care communities? What does it look like for people to interact with your business and music therapy?
Yeah. So some families will hire us privately to come into their home and work with their loved one. And then we also do go into facilities as well. Provide if we're going into a facility, it's primarily for groups, or it might be for end of life care, hospice, if that's one on one. That's kind of the general model there.
You said you do have a location that people can come to do
Mhm.
classes? Where's that at again?
We're in Sandy. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and we do have some individuals come here as well, mostly with our elder care population, though it's a little bit harder to get out. So we do try to get to patients' homes whenever we can.
What areas do you cover geographically?
So primarily Salt Lake County, we do have some availability in Davis and Utah counties as well.
Okay, okay. What would you say is the most unique facet, or like what makes music therapy more unique as opposed to just normal, let's say, physical therapy, or having people come in and do activities that could, you could argue, oh, it's helping with cognition or it's helping coordination, or we have people here to help with that. What makes music therapy really stand out apart from these other types of therapies or modalities, as some people will call it?
Yeah, I mean, just that concept that music is touching everything. Like it reaches your emotions in a way that almost nothing else can, especially like if you hear that song from that time in your life that was just like, oh my gosh, like that feeling of nostalgia and that spark of remembrance that comes up. Like there's not much that can do that. Smells will do that. Some other things will do that, but music is very, very unique in what it can do there. And then building on top of that is the journey that music can take you on. Like if you're listening, like a beautiful symphony, for example, can rise and fall and bring up different emotions at different times and make you even feel like wanting to withdraw and then wanting to expand. Like music just it takes us on this journey. And so when we start to bring music into these experiences, tapping into beautiful memories, helping families to connect without words. I've done a lot of sessions in end of life care where the patient is no longer responsive, and yet we're playing music that the family can respond to, that the family can still interact in some deep level with their loved one because the music is present. And often in those situations, I'll hear from the families like, wow, I didn't know I needed this. I had no idea what music could do in a time like this, as opposed to just having silence or just kind of still just talking about whatever. But the music creates this blanket, this space to feel and to process in very different ways than anything else can.
The last question I have is, what do you think is a common misconception about music therapy? Like almost a myth that you would like to myth bust right now? Because
Yeah,
there's always misconceptions with services like this, and it can be sometimes detrimental to a business or detrimental to people seeking out the help because there's some misconception.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of misconception. It kind of depends on who you're talking to, but the most common one I find with serving elder care is that we get confused with other professionals. Like there's harp therapists and there's sound healers, and we get confused very often with what they do. They each serve a really beautiful purpose, but I'm not trained as a sound healer and I'm not trained as a harp therapist. The music therapist training is more clinical and more very much in depth as far as how to the clinical application of music. So So just getting confused with other professionals and the scope of what we can do goes a lot deeper. And yeah, that's I would say that's the biggest one. And then beyond that, just this idea that that music is just kind of just for fun. That it doesn't really go deeper than that. But because of the science of what we know about what music can do for us, that is something that we do spend a lot of time to educate and just really show people like what you feel in response to music or what you've seen or experienced throughout your life. There's a reason for that, and we can use that to help with so many things. So those are probably the biggest ones.
I kinda wanna add to that again, and then we'll wrap up. It's funny you mentioned, like, music's not just for fun. I think I'd mentioned to you in a past life, I mean, just a little bit after I went to college, so, not quite 20 years ago, a little less than that, I had taught band and such, and I've taught a lot of music lessons, and it's the biggest misconception. Even when I still play in Utah Symphony, I'm paid to do that. I mean, I get paid pretty high rate actually, within music scene and even amongst others. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's just so much fun." I'm like, "Well, it really is work." But people think you're just doing it and you just magically do it. And there is this idea that is not as valid as other things. Like I use this example, a plumber installing a toilet or, a doctor or a lawyer. But again, I tell people music is a big part of the economy if you wanna talk about just the money aspect of it, but it's a big part of your entertainment and enjoyment in life. Involved everywhere. It
Mhm.
goes back to ancient civilizations and how music was a pillar, a cornerstone of not only education, but the society, and it's still that way.
Yeah.
All civilized nation states have music in an artistic form, and it's just a historical fact. So I push back on that a lot because everyone's like, "Oh, it's just fun." I'm like, "Yes, but it's also a art that has been a part of humanity since the beginning that
Yeah.
continues to persevere." Well, I really appreciate you coming on the YouTube channel. Tell the audience how they can best find you. Maybe share your phone number out loud, website, and location.
Yeah. So our location, where our main office is in Sandy, and website is just www.harmonymusictherapy.com. And my direct line is 801-200-3273. And you can also reach me, JC, or actually info would be easier to remember. info at harmonymusictherapy.com.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for coming, and I'm sure we'll interact again. Thanks so much. We'll see you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Yeah.